A day after the mortal remains of the Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat, was brought back to the national capital, the mortal remains of General Rawat and his wife Madhulika Rawat will be kept at the CDS's residence in Delhi for everyone to come and pay their last respects. The remains will be kept at the Chief of Defence Staff's residence in the national capital from 11 a.m. right up till 12:30 in the afternoon. Civil dignitaries, citizens will be allowed to come and pay homage to the fallen soldier. From 12:30 this afternoon till 1:30, military personnel will be allowed to pay their tributes. Following that, the final journey of General Rawat will begin from his residence to the Brar Square crematorium at 2 p.m. Congress MP Rahul Gandhi is expected to pay his tribute at 9:30 this morning. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath is also heading to Delhi to pay his last respects. The Chief of Defence Staff of Sri Lanka, General Shavendra Silva, is also expected to attend the last rites of General Rawat. Let's get you those touching images from last evening when we as a country came together to pay our tributes to the Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat, and all the others, the 12 others who were killed in the tragic chopper crash on December 8th. The mortal remains of those fallen were brought to the capital last evening. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also paid his tribute at the Palam airport.
These images break a billion hearts. The grief was palpable as the Indian Air Force's C-130J aircraft touched down at the Palam Air Base on Thursday. A sense of loss gripped the entire nation. The military aircraft carried the mortal remains of Chief of Defence Staff General Bipin Rawat, his wife and 11 officers who died in the tragic chopper crash in Tamil Nadu's Kunnur on Wednesday. With full state honours, their remains draped in tricolour, nation paid Shraddhanjali to the braves. It was a somber ceremony that was attended by the top brass of the government and military. Prime Minister Narendra Modi paid a floral tribute to each and every fallen soldier. He spoke to the bereaved families and consoled them. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh also spoke to the families of the deceased and sympathized with them. Army Chief M.M. Naravane, Marshal Vivek Ram Chaudhary and Chief of the Naval Staff R. Hari Kumar were also in attendance. For the families, the loss is tremendous. Many broke down, in tears, yet resolute, shattered, yet graceful. They paid their tribute, their final goodbyes. As they wept, India wept too, and the entire nation felt an immense feeling of loss. With Mohit Sharma in Delhi, Bureau Report, India Today.
The sole survivor in the horrific military chopper crash is Group Captain Varun Singh. He suffered a few injuries, mostly burn injuries, and is currently undergoing treatment. Group Captain Varun Singh has been shifted to the Air Force Command Hospital for further treatment in Bengaluru. He was previously in the military hospital in Wellington. We at India Today join an entire nation to pray for his speedy recovery.
He was pulled out of the wreckage of the Mi-17 V5 helicopter alive. Group Captain Varun Singh, Shaurya Chakra, the lone survivor of the horrific tragedy. He was breathing but had severe burn injuries and was rushed to the military hospital in Wellington by emergency services. Group Captain Varun, directing staff at the Defence Services Staff College in Wellington, was escorting the Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat, and his entourage to the Staff College, where he was to deliver a lecture. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh in Parliament on Thursday gave details of Group Captain Varun's condition.
क्रैश साइट से सर्वाइवर्स को रिकवर करने का भी प्रयास किया। उस अवशेष से जितने भी लोगों को निकाला जा सका, उन सबको यथाशीघ्र वेलिंगटन के मिलिट्री हॉस्पिटल पहुंचाया गया। कुल 14 लोगों में से 13 लोगों की मृत्यु हो गई। ग्रुप कैप्टन वरुण सिंह वेलिंगटन के मिलिट्री हॉस्पिटल में लाइफ सपोर्ट पर हैं और उन्हें बचाने के हर संभव प्रयास किए जा रहे हैं।
Group Captain Varun is a true survivor. He was awarded the nation's third highest gallantry award, the Shaurya Chakra, for his amazing grit, determination and valor. In October 2020, then Wing Commander Varun was test flying a Tejas light combat aircraft on a test sortie. With deft handling of the aircraft, despite the fighter plane pitching wildly, he brought it under control, choosing not to eject, but to land the aircraft, putting his life at grave risk, but saving a valuable national asset and lives on the ground. Group Captain Varun Singh, a fighter pilot, a role model for many, was posted to the Staff College to motivate future commanders. Group Captain Varun is a second-generation officer hailing from Uttar Pradesh. 1 billion prayers are now on for his speedy and complete recovery. Bureau Report, India Today.
All of us are asking what led to this military chopper crash. Was it poor visibility? Was it a technical glitch? What led to the death of India's Chief of Defence Staff, his wife and 11 others? Defence officials have retrieved the black box from the wreckage of the IAF Mi-17 chopper. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh also informed Parliament that a tri-services inquiry has begun into the chopper crash, and this inquiry is being headed by Air Marshal Manvendra Singh.
The Mi-17 V5 chopper crash that killed CDS General Bipin Rawat has shaken India's entire armed forces establishment. How could an advanced chopper with modern equipment and good safety record crash? Some experts suggest bad weather could be the reason. Others fear there could have been a last-second technical snag.
The video which has been shot just prior, they indicate that this helicopter has entered some kind of weather phenomena. Why? There can be two plausible explanations for that. One being, it had some emergency on board, which forced the helicopter to enter such a situation from which it could not come out. And the images subsequently on the ground, they show that the helicopter has impacted with a very high speed. So it is not something which is like the helicopter was in control while it was nearing the terrain.
The answers lie in the black box, which was recovered from the dense Nilgiri forest by the search teams on Thursday. The black box has two key components, the flight data recorder and the cockpit voice recorder that will reveal what really happened in those final moments. In addition to the black box, the investigation will also bank on the lone survivor, Group Captain Varun Singh. The probe is being carried out by a tri-service team headed by Air Marshal Manvendra Singh. The high-level probe was announced by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh in Parliament.
इस दुर्घटना के संबंध में इंडियन एयरफोर्स द्वारा एयर मार्शल मानवेंद्र सिंह की अध्यक्षता में एक ट्राई सर्विस इंक्वायरी के भी आदेश दे दिए गए हैं। इंक्वायरी टीम कि ऑफिसर्स ने कल ही वेलिंगटन पहुंचकर अपना कार्य भी प्रारंभ कर दिया है।
Wednesday's chopper crash and the loss of India's top military officer, his wife and 11 other servicemen is a horror that India is still coming to terms with. There are several questions. A billion Indians await the answers. Bureau Report, India Today.
The death of the Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat, has left a void really in the country's top military leadership. The hunt is on for the next Chief of Defence. India Today learnt that government is likely to name the next CDS in a week's time. And Army Chief General Naravane is first in the line of succession. He's the senior-most officer in our forces after General Rawat. And China's aggressive attempt to change the status quo unilaterally can influence the government's decision.
Chief of Defence Staff, India's topmost military post. The single point advisor to the Prime Minister on defence matters. The post of CDS was created to improve coordination between the Army, Air Force and Navy. The untimely death of General Bipin Rawat has left a gap in the country's top military leadership. India Today has learned that the government is likely to name the new CDS in a week's time. Sources say there is no clear and immediate line of succession for the CDS. It is principally a decision that the government takes, keeping in mind the border security challenges. What are the criteria for choosing India's next topmost military chief? Any commanding officer of the three services, that is Army, Air Force and Navy, is eligible for the post of the CDS. Army Chief General Naravane is the first in line of succession. Of the three serving chiefs, General Naravane is the senior-most officer in the military after General Rawat. General Naravane took over as the Army Chief from General Bipin Rawat in December 2019. His tenure as Army Chief ends in April 2022.
All of us just only contribute to our professionalism all our life. You just pick up a general today anywhere and he'll be able to fit into the boots of General Rawat in a matter of a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
He has to be just probably guided into it a little bit. And the armed forces have their ways of doing it. All three services have their own ways of doing it.
The government could weigh the situation on the border with China while naming the CDS. From Ladakh in the western sector to Arunachal Pradesh in the eastern sector, China has been aggressively attempting to change the status quo unilaterally. The army is on the front lines handling the Chinese threat, and this could influence the government's decision. Whoever is named the CDS has big boots to fill. General Bipin Rawat had brought in several modernization initiatives which need to be followed through. Restructuring the Indian Armed Forces on the lines of theatre command was among the top priorities of General Rawat.
There is a need to integrate the airspace under one unified command. And therefore, we will be going in for creation of an air defense command where one commander will be responsible for ensuring the entire management of the airspace above.
Theatrization is the concept of integrating all three services under one commander and combining the strengths of the armed forces to deliver the best punch in the battle. The move had raised concerns in the Air Force and Navy. The next CDS will have to smoothen the rough edges and bring all on board. Bureau Report, India Today.
Amid growing concerns over the new Omicron threat, it looks like India's drug controller can approve booster doses as well. A subject expert committee will be holding a crucial meeting over booster doses, taking up the Serum Institute of India's application to approve Covishield for booster jabs. Serum Institute has sought approval, citing its adequate stock and demand for booster shots due to the emergence of new COVID variants. India has reported multiple cases of Omicron in different parts of the country. There have been cases reported in Delhi, in Mumbai, in Bengaluru. Omicron has reignited the debate for a need for a booster dose in India. Experts have suggested the third dose for people with weaker immunity first. India today spoke to Dr Anjali Kutsi, the South African doctor who first identified the Omicron variant. Now, Dr Kutsi said that the majority of the Omicron cases in South Africa are more prominent in those who are unvaccinated. She said that there are reinfections despite the vaccine, but symptoms are extremely mild. Now, Dr Kutsi also pushed for booster doses, particularly for vulnerable groups. She suggested that India should start giving a booster dose to healthcare workers, followed by those with weak immunity and then other high-risk groups.
Cases are mild. I spoke with my group of doctors this afternoon. I also asked them, listen, what are you guys seeing? Is it still mild cases? And then they said exactly the same. Yes, there's a higher transmissibility, or it's quite fast spreading, but the cases are mild. We're not seeing severe ill disease patients. Ever the younger patients coming in will complain of a sore throat. They have a bit different symptoms than the 20 pluses, so they will have the sore throat predominantly, and they might have a fever, they might have a slight elevated pulse, but and they might, look ill, acute ill, but I promise you, then the majority of them, within about 3 to 4 days later, you will not believe that that was the same child that you have seen. So that the recovery rate is very good as well. We had 73,911 people tested, and 19,800 was positive.
Okay.
So we've got a lot of people going to test. It's nice. It's a 19,000. But do we see all those sick people coming into the surgeries, overflow the surgeries? No, not really. We can handle. This is not the same at primary healthcare level than Delta. Delta is a dangerous virus. None of the general practitioners in Gauteng that we are aware of have put anyone on oxygen. We're not aware of, I know of 2 or 3 patients that has been admitted earlier, but there's already been this a discharge, so mild symptoms in the end. It's just a scare because it was before we knew that it is also mild. At hospital level, that is a different picture, but at primary healthcare, where the majority of patients are being seen, it's mild.
Has South Africa started with it? Do you think we need it? Specifically with India, as the double dose vaccinations are currently on, do you suggest a booster jab also for the population?
I suggest that, especially your vulnerable groups, your 50 pluses, people vaccinated more than 3 months ago, that because that's what we see.
It's time for us to slip into a short break here on India Today. We'll be right back on First Up with all the latest tributes pouring in for General Rawat and all the other personnel who died in the Wednesday chopper crash.